Mabel was sold in the marketplace like livestock, betrayed by the people who were meant to protect her, her parents, because she couldn't bear children. Once cherished as a daughter and wife, she was discarded like a broken tool, her worth reduced to a barren womb. Her father's voice boomed over the market square, offering her for half the price of a steer, while she stood bruised in body and spirit, drowning in the memory of her torn wedding dress and the cold rejection by her husband, who replaced her with a younger, fertile girl. Silence fell when a tall lumberjack stepped forward. He didn't haggle or joke, just dropped a pouch of coins and ended the humiliation. His name was Silas. No promises, no smiles, just a single statement. She won't be judged anymore. That was the end of her public auction and the beginning of something unfamiliar. They rode together in quiet through dry fields and vast skies. Silas didn't offer comfort, but neither did he offer cruelty. When Mabel finally asked why he took her in, his answer was stark. He had 4 motherless children and no time to find a wife the polite way. He didn't need a servant or a miracle, just someone not cruel. His home was modest, just a cabin in the pines, a porch that groaned with every step, no front door, only a blanket to block the wind. The children eyed her with uncertainty. Josiah, guarded. Eli, noisy and insatiable. Hannah, clinging to Silas like she'd disappear without contact. And Benji, the baby, quiet and trusting. Mabel entered their lives like an unsure whisper, cooking, mending, and learning to find rhythm in the chaos. She stumbled often. Burned beans, failed bread, dropped stew. But Silas never raised his voice. "It's only stew," he'd said the first time she made a mess. And that simple kindness stayed with her like a promise. When Hannah burned with fever, Mabel moved like someone who had always known how to care. She brewed remedies, cooled the child's brow, never stopped, never rested. At dawn, the fever broke. Silas didn't say thank you aloud, but the way his shoulders eased said enough. Later, she found a note on the table beside a warm mug of tea. 2 words, clumsily written. "Thank you." That moment changed something. It didn't erase what she'd lost or what had been taken, but it planted the smallest seed of something new. Here, no one measured her by what her body couldn't do. No one demanded she earn her place through perfection. In the soft chaos of that creaky home, Mabel's care was seen, felt. And that afternoon, when Benji toddled over and reached for her, he spoke her name for the first time. Maple. Not quite right, but close enough to make her smile. It was a beginning. Not chosen, not expected, but hers. For the first time in many weeks, she returned a smile, not out of obligation, but because it came from within. Spring began its slow advance into the pines, gently easing the icy grip that had dominated the land. Mabel no longer wept into the night. Her hands found steadiness again. Her voice regained its strength. She began teaching the children letters, drawing with charcoal on scraps of old wood, guiding them as they learned their names and sang gentle songs. She showed Hannah how to tie ribbons and sewed matching scarves from worn feed sacks for each child. They called her Miss May. She never corrected them. Yet even as the days lengthened and softened, unease remained, like a bruise that hadn't quite faded. One afternoon, Silas asked if she'd accompany him to town for supplies. He didn't elaborate, just tossed her the reins like she belonged. At the general store, while he queued inside, Mabel stepped out. The usual buzz of town talk filled the air, until a biting voice sliced through it. "Well, if it ain't the barren ghost." Her former mother-in-law stood smug near the dry goods, fanning herself. Beside her stood the new wife, young, smug, lace-gloved, and performing the gesture of touching her stomach for all to see. "That her?" the girl asked, voice too loud to be polite. "Yes," the older woman said with a sneer. "Pretty, but broken. Couldn't even give us a wailing pup." "I will," the girl replied, chin lifted. "A big strong boy. One who'll carry the name not like her. She's as useful as a shattered jar." Mabel clenched her fists, words stuck in her throat. She refused to offer them the tears, the pain, or the power. She turned to leave. Then a hand settled on her shoulder. Silas had come outside, dirt still clinging to his boots. His voice was steady, quiet. She's the one who can soothe my daughter to sleep. The one who taught Benji not to throw stones. She makes our home feel like home. Neither woman replied. He simply guided Mabel away, no further words exchanged. On the ride back, she sat in silence. That night, after tucking the children in, she crafted a little wreath from wildflowers by the well. She didn't know why, only that her hands needed to shape something gentle again. Weeks passed. Rumors began. The new wife, so proud and full of promise, remained childless. Her belly didn't swell. Her voice turned bitter. She stopped going to church. Whispers grew louder. She was seen with a man from the post station. Word spread that she planned to fake a pregnancy. But deceit has a scent, and it lingered. Her husband discovered the truth. The nursery was dismantled. He cursed the lies and aged rapidly. One day, Mabel was buying flour in town when her ex-husband appeared. He looked older, worn down, hat crushed in hand. His voice was brittle. "Mabel, I was wrong. I see it now. You were the only one who ever cared for me." She lifted her hand. "I remember when you let your mother spit on me. When you tossed me away because I couldn't give you what you never had either." He stammered, but she continued. "I wake to 4 children's hugs. I have a man who asks only what I want to give. My home is full of peace, of laughter. I'd rather sweep ashes for Silas than sit in your parlor as some delicate prize." He opened his mouth again, but said nothing. She turned. Across the street, Silas stood holding a sack of rice, having seen everything. His face bore not pride but something deeper. Respect, affection freely given and chosen. That evening, as dusk settled with orange and ash across the valley, Mabel went to fetch water. The children were asleep. She didn't notice the figure leaning near the fence. Jed, the trapper, half drunk. "Well, look who it is," he slurred. "Thought you were barren, but heard you've been mothering just fine." Mabel stiffened. "It's late, Jed. Go home." He laughed, crude. "Just wanted a look. Silas keeps you locked up tight." She turned, but he lunged, grabbing her wrist with a filthy, calloused hand. "You owe us a smile." Before she could scream, a blur shot from the barn Silas. Without a word, he landed a punch square to Jed's jaw. Jed collapsed to the dirt like a sack of grain. Everything stilled. Even the air froze. Silas stood over him, chest heaving, knuckles bleeding. Mabel's heart pounded, not with fear, but something else. She'd never seen him raise his voice, much less a hand. Jed groaned. Forgotten. Silas looked only at her. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, though tears welled. "I'm sorry," she whispered, uncertain what for. Gently, Silas untied the red kerchief from his neck and wrapped it around her wrist. "No one touches you," he said, calm but absolute, "unless I say." Inside, Mabel cleaned his hands with boiled water and muslin. The silence between them was full, charged. "You didn't have to," she said softly. "He'd have gone. He shouldn't have touched you." She dabbed his skin. "But you hate fighting." "I hate more seeing someone hurt you." Her breath caught. "I cried," she admitted. "But not because I was afraid. Because no one's ever stood up for me before." He said nothing, only looked at her like she was fragile, but not weak. When she finished, she sat back. He flexed his fingers. "Thank you," she said. He shrugged. "I don't want to live in a world where men like that think they can talk to you." She smiled, faint but real. Her wrist still ached, but her heart, after years of loneliness, felt protected. Outside, stars glimmered sharp. Inside, a quiet man had finally fought for her, and she, long treated as small and disposable, had been guarded like something cherished. It wasn't love yet, but perhaps the outline of what love might become. Then came a morning, rimmed with frost, where every breath showed white and the fence posts glittered. Mabel was kneading dough when a scream pierced the air. High and shrill, one of the children. She dropped the bowl, flour erupting like a snowstorm, and sprinted barefoot across the yard. Caleb, Silas's youngest, lay crumpled by the woodpile. His leg was twisted unnaturally, blood on the blade of the nearby axe. "Oh God," she whispered. Silas was already there, face taut but hands steady as he lifted the boy. "Boil water," he said, calm but urgent. "Get the bandages." She ran, breath ragged, her heart pounding and her hands fumbling with urgency. When she returned, Silas had already placed the boy on the kitchen table, his pants torn at the thigh where blood poured from a deep, torn wound. Mabel's hands trembled as she pressed fabric against it, trying to stop the bleeding. Caleb cried out, his face white with pain. "I know, sweetheart," she said, her voice breaking. "I know it hurts. Just hang on." Tears fell onto his leg as she cleaned, bandaged, and prayed with every touch. Then came his voice, faint and strained. "Don't cry, Mama." She froze. The word lingered in the warm, humid air. Caleb blinked at her, lips quivering. "You make good biscuits, and sing like my real mama used to." She touched his cheek, her hand shaking, and the tears wouldn't stop. Later, after Caleb had been settled with his leg elevated, the other children quietly gathered. One brought her a blanket, another a wooden horse. "You're staying," the middle child said with wide, serious eyes. "Does that mean you're our mama now?" Mabel couldn't answer. She just nodded. That night, without ceremony or question, they began to call her Mama, not from obligation, but from something honest and lasting. Silas saw it all. How she comforted them in the dark, how her hands knew how to soothe, how her face softened at the sound of their voices. That night, when all was quiet, Silas joined her outside under the stars. "I ain't much of a talker," he said. She looked up. "You say enough." He nodded. "When I paid that market fee, I thought I was giving you a way out. Never imagined I had the right to ask you to stay." She stared, trembling not in fear but from something older and gentler. "I used to think love meant being chosen first," she whispered. "But now I think it means being chosen again after they know who you really are." Silas's face tightened. "If you're not sending me away," she added, "then I'm not going." She stepped toward him, held his rough hand. "I didn't birth these children, but they made me into something I never thought I could be. And you let me be that." He looked at her not with desire or regret, but with awe. "I just wanted you safe." "I want more than safe," she said. He pulled her close, not as a man taking, but as one receiving a gift. The next morning, golden light filtered through the trees as she walked with Silas's eldest toward the one-room schoolhouse. He clutched his reader like a shield. Inside, the teacher glanced at some forms. "Just need to finalize the birth registry, Mom." Mabel nodded, fixing the boy's collar. "What's your name, son?" the teacher asked. "Thomas Jennings," he replied. "And your mother's name?" Silence. Then Thomas said clearly, "Mabel Silas." The teacher blinked. "Your mother's married name?" Thomas nodded. "That's what we call her." The teacher, perhaps familiar with frontier complexities, wrote it down and smiled. Mabel's breath caught. That name had never come from law or marriage, but from the honest lips of a child. Back at the cabin, Silas was carving something at the table. "The boy do all right?" he asked. "Better than all right," she replied. That night, as she folded laundry by the hearth, Silas placed a leather notebook beside her. "Don't got much to offer that ain't dirty," he said. "But if anyone earned a fresh page, it's you." She opened it, fingers brushing the blank paper. "I used to dream of starting over," she said. "Didn't think I'd get to write the story myself." "You write what you want," he told her. "Or nothing. It's yours." "Will you read it?" she asked. "Only if you let me." She held the pen like a promise and wrote, "Today is the first day I was loved without having to give birth to anyone." She didn't look up. She didn't need to. As the years passed, the land grew harsh. 7 weeks without rain cracked the ground and withered the crops. Silas worked harder, thinning, weary. Mabel saw the children grow quieter, hungrier, but she refused to accept despair. Before dawn, she filled every container with well water and began digging in the hardened soil. Her hands blistered, but she planted. She watered. She sang. When Silas collapsed with fever, she never left his side. She wiped his brow, fed him, whispered memories of greener days. One night he reached out, mumbling, "Don't leave me, not you." She kissed his temple. "I'm here, because here I'm needed." The fever passed. When he awoke, she was still there, grimy, exhausted, but solid. "You look like hell," he rasped. She laughed. "You should see you." Outside, green shoots had begun to push through the dirt. Days later, a boy ran in shouting, "There's a tomato!" And there it was, bright and defiant. Silas stared. "How?" he whispered. She looked at him. "You taught me not everything worth keeping comes easy." That night, they shared that tomato, sliced thin among 6 people. It was the best thing any of them had ever tasted. Later, Silas took her hand. "I got nothing much to give. Just this land, these kids, and you." She smiled. "That's more than I ever had. Before this, my name meant nothing. Now I have a garden, children who call me home, and a man who wanted me even in drought." Silas kissed her bruised hands. "You never needed rain to grow something beautiful." Years passed. The garden grew wild and strong. Mustard greens, corn, beans, flowers. Every morning Silas watched Mabel tend it. One spring, men in clean boots came with maps and offers. "A railroad," they said, "right through your hill. Think of your children." But Silas looked at the garden, the swing, the markers of memory. "No," he said. That evening he and Mabel put up a sign. "Not for sale." Life went on. The children married, returned with babies. The house rang with noise, the smell of bread, laughter. And the garden never died. One fall, a grandson asked, "Why don't you call it just Mabel's garden?" Silas led him to the gate and pointed. Above it, carved in wood, "She did not bear my blood, but she gave birth to the rest of my life." When Mabel died, they laid her beneath the tree she had once hung wind chimes from. The stone read, "Here grew everything she was never given and all that she gave anyway." Silas visited daily until he didn't. They buried him beside her. And the garden? It never stopped. The railroad curved around the hill, but travelers still passed and saw the sign. Not for sale. Because some places remember those who chose love when no one else did. Some hills bloom for the hearts that stayed.